Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9. I'm Paul Kretschmer. My special guest today leads an organization that ministers to Christians in Iran.
Sure. My name is Dr. Hormoz Shariat, Hormoz Shariat, Shariat, from Iran Alive.
How long has Iran Alive been in existence, sir?
Started at year 2000, so it's 22 years. Before that, I was a church planter among Muslims in California.
So your experience since your conversion to Christ as Messiah has been, it sounds, entirely in outreach to other people to share the good news then?
That's right. That's our starting point, to share the gospel, of course, and we use media. We use satellite television to go over the heads of the mullahs into people's homes and to share with them the message of Christ. And people of Iran have rejected Islam, and they're very open to the message of the gospel.
The country of Iran's been in the news a lot lately because of the death of the young woman a couple of months ago, which has then resulted in a great deal of demonstrating all over the country. Is that demonstrating emblematic of what you see as Iran's openness to the gospel at the current time?
Definitely, yes. That's a sign of Iranians rejecting not just the Islamic government, but Islam itself. So, people of Iran have experienced an Islamic government for over 40 years. And Iran has been the only country led by clergy, Muslim clergy, for 40 years. And they have implemented the laws of Islam. So after 40-some years, people of Iran have come to conclusion Islam is not the way. Islam is our problem, the root of our problem, but we need to get rid of it. So many Iranians have rejected Islam and they're looking somewhere else. They're looking into politics, they're looking into Eastern religions, they're looking at Christianity. And the Christian message is very attractive to them. Why? Because they're sick and tired of violence and hatred they've seen in Quran and in Islam. And when they look at the Bible, the God of the Bible, Jesus Christ, God so loved the world. Jesus, the Prince of Peace, he never killed anybody. Actually, he raised people from the dead. But Muhammad killed many, and Islam kills many. So people of Iran have come to this conclusion that it did not happen overnight. So it's not an emotional decision. It's a very deliberate decision, and it took him 40 years to come to this point, saying, we do know what Islam is. We have lived it for 40 years, and we don't want it. Actually, many of them are saying this religion, Islamic religion, is not from God. So that's why there is openness to the gospel, but it's openness to many other things also. So it is our duty to share the gospel. And once we do it, it's very attractive to the people of Iran. The message of love, the message of forgiveness is very attractive to the people of Iran today.
Is the form of Islam that's practiced in places like Iran or, for instance, Afghanistan an accurate representation of Islam, or is it a religion that has been, how shall we say it, corrupted by the influences of men who want to maintain control over a society?
Very good question, because the Islam that's presented in the West is not the true Islam. What I mean is does not match the commands of Quran. I mean, how do you evaluate a faith, like Christian faith? How do you know if somebody is a good Christian, a bad Christian, following, corrupting the Bible or not? Only way is that you look at their book, you look at the Bible, you look at the New Testament, and you can judge a Christian. Are you following this? Are you living like Jesus? If they do, then you say you are a Christian. The same is with Islam. How do you know to answer your question, how do you know if Islam in Iran or in Afghanistan is true Islam or is not? And they have spoiled it um, they have changed it for their own benefit. How do you know? Best test. Look at Quran, number one, and look at Prophet Muhammad. How did they live? What is in Quran? What is it commanding? And whoever sticks to that teaching, then that person is a more true Muslim than others. That's very logical approach. I'm talking about logic. I'm not talking about emotional, because if I talk emotionally, I love Muslims. I don't hate Muslims. I've given my life to save Muslims, to share the love of God with Muslims. So the summary, the Islam in Iran is a true Islam. They look at Quran and they try to implement it. Islam is experienced in Iran. The ISIS had a very amazing challenge. Remember, the ISIS were saying this, and they were challenging the world. They're saying, you show us a verse in the Quran that we are not following. Tell us we are wrong by showing us a verse in Quran. And they were claiming, ISIS, that everything we do is according to Quran. And they were right, because nobody could challenge them, saying you are wrong because this Quran says this, but you're doing something else. So ISIS, it consists of those who are committed to obeying every word of Quran.
In terms of your own conversion experience, could you sketch out a little bit about what it was like as someone who grew up in that world and then made the choice to accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, sir?
Yes, I was not raised under the Islamic government. I was born and raised under Shah, who was some relative freedom to follow your religion, and the only freedom that was not there during Shah was political freedom. So I came to U.S. At the time of revolution and before Islam took over. And by the way, when I came, I said, I want to be a good Muslim. Look what Islam has done. It has defeated superpower USA. It has defeated Shah. So there is God, and this God is with Islam. I want to be a good Muslim. But being a research scientist, I have a PhD in AI, artificial intelligence. So I said, but I want to do research. If I want to dedicate my life to Islam, I better do a research. Then, knowingly, I will dedicate my life serving Allah. When I read Quran, I realized it's not what I thought. It does not satisfy my heart, my soul, and it has so many violent verses that I do not want, I don't feel is right to follow, be that violent, that so much hatred towards others. So I said, out of my intellectual pride, I said, if God has written other books, I'm open-minded, I am a scientist, I am a researcher, I'm going to read it. So I got a Bible. I read some of the Old Testament and jumped to the New Testament. And when I was reading Matthew, I realized what Jesus says, nobody has ever said. It's not in Quran. And who Jesus is so different than who Muhammad is. So I went through several months of crisis of which one is true? Which one is true? Before, I thought all religions are the same. Some intellectuals feel that way. Why do they fight? They're all the same. That's what I thought. But when I compared the Bible and Quran, I came to the conclusion they both cannot be true. It's like two different gods that they're presenting to me. Which one is true God? And after a few months of just comparing, I couldn't find answers to my questions. I went to a church in downtown Los Angeles. I heard the simple message of the gospel that even a child can understand. And that changed my life. It transformed my life. You know what? I said, wow, faith is not that complicated. Believing in Jesus is simple. Even a child can understand. But there is power into it. It's powerful. It's simple, yes, but it's powerful. It changed my life. It changed my relationship with my wife. We were at the verge of divorce, and God healed that. And I got excited. I said, this simple thing, can change families, can change lives, and it can change and transform a nation. That's when I dedicated my life to sharing the gospel lovingly with Muslims.
I see here that it is considered that only about one third of Iranians currently identify as Muslim. Does that mean, for instance, that there are many people on the streets within the country who have the capacity to have your sort of mind and approach to finding out who Jesus is then? Is that the reason why you're programming into the country?
Exactly right. We find many open hearts and open minds. They're thinking. Iranian Muslims are thinking. They're comparing. In Islam, you're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to read a Bible. Muslims are afraid. Typical Muslims are afraid to read Bible. They're not allowed to compare, to read and compare. So what's happening in Iran, and you're so right about the statistics. I used to say Iran is no longer an Islamic nation. And people challenge me, say, what are you talking about? Just Google it. It's 98% Muslim. I said, no, it's not. But now, as you mentioned, there is a proof. The statistic you mentioned came out of a study done in Sweden by two professors. They asked 50,000 Iranians, what do you believe? So it's a very solid research. And according to that research, less than 1/3 said we believe in Islam. Another 1/3 said we don't believe in God, or God is irrelevant to our lives. And the last 1/3 were open to everything except Islam. They were looking at Eastern religion, New Age, anything, Sufism, and Christianity, of course, but Islam. So that again comes to us. How could they believe if they have not heard? We got to share the gospel. And when they hear it, the Holy Spirit resonates in their heart. There is no competition. If you present Jesus, there is no other religious leader that competes with Jesus. His character, his teaching, and the result of his teaching is me, is to change lives. So many Iranians have come to Christ. They've been set free from anger, from addiction, from hopelessness, from suicide, and people around them notice that, and they come to Christ also. So it's not just the changing of a religion. Jesus is not a religion. He changes lives. He transforms lives. When he does in an Islamic country like Iran, when one person in a family, their lives are changed, it's obvious. Every member of family comes and says, what happened to you? You're changed. You used to be depressed. Now you're joyful. You used to be disrespectful to your parents. Now you're not. Tell me what happened. And that's one reason the church in Iran is growing. Did you know Iran has the fastest growing evangelical population in the world? I don't say that. That's a research. Operation World Manual has done research and put Iran as the fastest growing evangelical population. And that's by rate. It's not by number. It's how fast it's growing. Yes, the churches in Iran are closed. The internet is disconnected for most days, and when it's open, it's very much controlled. So that's what satellite television. We broadcast from a satellite. The signal comes from sky. The government cannot do anything about it, cannot stop it. So that's their starting point. You get into people's homes, they come to Christ. But that's not the end. That's the beginning. What do? They contact us. They either have questions, they need prayer, they need counseling, but they also need Bible. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hormuz Shariat, for spending a few minutes of your time. There's so much we could have covered. Perhaps you and I will have to get together on another occasion and explore what Iran Alive Ministries is doing at the current time again, sir. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm and for the Spirit of the Lord which resides within you.
I thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate you asking me to share.
My guest today once again was Dr. Hormuz Shariat, the head of Iran Alive. For further information about what you heard today, call us at 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049, or write your email to office@wihsradio.org. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of this station. I'm Paul Kretschmer for the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 WIHS.